Welcome, everyone. I'm Stephanie Jones. I'm the event manager at Drug Policy Alliance, and I also have the privilege of being the moderator for this session, What Can Psychedelics Teach Us About Drug Misuse and Addiction? So, I'm not going to say a lot of comments. I'm going to let these fine, intelligent people do most of the talking on this session. But I will say, when we were discussing the conference program, this was one of the top issues that we wanted to address relating to psychedelics. The fact, it seems kind of counterintuitive that you could use a drug to treat another drug addiction, or that seems kind of something crazy, but we've seen, in fact, in the history that psychedelics can be very useful in terms of treating drug addiction, different kinds of addiction, different drug addictions. So I'm going to let these people tell you about the work they've been doing in that area, and even how psychedelics can be used outside of clinical and research settings relating to drug misuse and addiction. So our first speaker is Albert Garcia Romeo. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. He's a research fellow at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and he has been studying the use of psychedelics for treatment of addiction in smoking. So, please welcome Albert.
Hello, and thank you all for coming out here. We appreciate the fact that there is some public interest and support for the work that everybody in here is doing or interested in on some level. I am going to be talking specifically about a project that I've been working on, but I also want to talk a little bit more generally about research in the laboratory where I work, which is a laboratory under the auspices of Roland Griffiths, who's a senior researcher there, and Matt Johnson and Catherine McLean, who are some other researchers that I've had the pleasure of working with at Hopkins for the last 16 months or year and a half or so since I got on there. And what they've been doing is really innovative because a lot of these drugs that are called quote-unquote psychedelics, and that's not a very good term because even though it was coined by Humphrey Osmond back in the late 50s, I believe, to denote these kinds of mind-manifesting drugs, it's not really a good catch-all because I've heard some of the other researchers and presenters up here talking about, if you're talking about MDMA, it works one way. If you're talking about psilocybin or LSD, it works in another way. All these drugs work quite differently in the brain, and they look different in terms of their pharmacological profiles and what are their effects and so forth. And so the researchers at Hopkins got interested in some of these drugs, and some of them that are more esoteric, like DXM or dextromethorphan, salvia divinorum, which is another one of these quote-unquote psychedelic or hallucinogenic compounds. And the thing is, there's a lot that we don't know about these drugs. And so over the last 10 to 12 years or so, researchers at Hopkins have been trying to find out more about